Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Happy 2021. This is our first Do Your Business mini-series since the new year, which is so exciting. I'm Morgan Heinrich. I'm the Director of Marketing at Legacy Purchasing Group, and today Ashley is going to be joining us, our founder, our CEO, the brain behind Legacy Purchasing Group. So thank you, Ashley, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Morgan. I'm excited about this one.
Yes, I am too. So it's that time of year where everyone is focused on health. You set your New Year's resolution. You have these plans made for 2021. I mean, we had a lot going on, a lot of distractions in 2020. Work life changed, working from home. So we are so excited to talk about obesity and mental health. So our end goal today is to hope you are educated a little bit better on the two big issues that face America. If anything, use what you learned to share with your family, your employees, and your coworkers. So we wanted to welcome on our show today. Hi, Dr. Tram Nguyen. How are
Hi,
you?
everybody. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Morgan. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, we are so excited about this. So can you tell us quickly just a little bit about you?
So I am family medicine trained. Been in practice for a few years now, or a long time. And then I'm also board certified in obesity medicine, and then I also do hormonal therapy management. But then pretty much I do everything in medicine because I love medicine. But one of the big focuses is obesity, is because that's one of the big disease that once we fix the patient, they really do change their life and make life so much better for them. So it's something that I focus on a lot.
Yeah, and so I think that is what kind of stands you out from the crowd. And we're going to talk about your business at the end. But we had posted a video where you go into detail about all these topics, and it's on our Your Resource Business page. And we dive into obesity, what causes it, and the reasons behind the disease. It's on our website. Please be sure, if you're watching this, check it out. And I also wanted to say, if you have any questions at all, please comment on the chat and say hi when you join. All questions will be answered at the end. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so those are our viewers that have not watched this video yet. Can you tell us the 7 key factors that contribute to this disease?
So when we talk about obesity, people always think about that obesity is caused by, not eating right and exercise. When you go to a doctor's office, they usually do your body mass index, or like they weigh you and it's like, oh, you weigh too much, you need to exercise and eat right. But yet the patient may be eating right and exercise already, and they're still having weight problems. And so there's a lot of key factors that causes the disease. So then we need to make sure, as provider or as patient, if you have any of these contributing factors, then you need to look into fixing those problems also, and not just eating right and exercise, not the only piece. For instance, like if you have a genetic component, like your gene, if your parents were obese, or if the food that you eat causes methylation, can cause you to have a genetic component that plays into it. Sleep deprivation can cause weight gain. So for example, people with sleep apnea, or if they're in menopause and they have hot flashes, they can't sleep. That also causes to have weight gain, because it causes increase in ghrelin, a hormone that causes us to be more hungry. And so we eat more when we're sleep deprivation. And then also we're increasing cortisol, which is a stress hormone that also causes weight gain. And then the third component, the key component, is that psychological issues like stress, depression, people with PTSD, things like that, can cause you to also increase in cortisol and also causing weight gain in a psychological aspect. And then the big piece of it is the fourth factor is hormones. So especially hormone imbalance. Younger women, if you are having PCOS, like polycystic ovarian syndrome, or estrogen dominance, meaning your body produces too much estrogen and not enough progesterone or not enough testosterone, can cause you to have weight gain. And then women who are in the menopausal age, where we're starting having hot flashes, estrogen comes down, progesterone comes down, testosterone comes down, those hormones are imbalanced, will cause you to gain weight, decrease in energy, can't think straight, have fogginess, moody, those are things that a hormone imbalance can occur. Same thing with men, when you hit about 40 years old or so is when your testosterone level starts to come down, and low testosterone will cause you to gain weight and weight gain in fat mass, but then also losing muscle mass. So as you can see, some of the men who are in their 40s or 50s, sometimes they'll start to have like a belly of fat mass, and then their arms and their legs are all kind of like skinny because they're losing the muscle mass because of the low testosterone. So hormone imbalance is a very big key factor to obesity. And sometimes you're doing everything, you're eating right, you're exercising, you're doing everything you can, but then you still can't lose weight. If your hormones imbalanced, that's a huge piece to it. So that needs to be balanced. Nutrition, the type of food that you eat. So every person body is responds to things a little differently, but generally low carb, high protein is generally a good way to lose weight, because food with high carbohydrate then will tend to cause us to be more hungry faster, and then also will cause us to gain more weight, because the body uses carbohydrate as energy. So if we eat too much carbohydrate, everything else you eat then will store as fat. In order to burn the stored fat, then you have to have low enough carbohydrate for that to occur. So usually I like teaching a low carb, high protein diet. And some people will kind of go a little bit more like strict into keto. So it depends on my patient population that I'd recommend one versus the other, depending on the health condition. But nutrition is a huge piece on what type of food we eat, especially if we're eating too much carbohydrate. You'll make you more drowsy, more sleepy after a work day. So like, for example, if you're going to eat lunch and you're eating a bowl of pasta, you'll probably be really sleepy and drowsy when you guys have a conference call like at 2 in the afternoon, versus if you were to eat like, grilled chicken or steak and broccoli, you'll be a lot more awake, because the glycemic index from the carbohydrates not causing you to be drowsy like it is in carbohydrate. So nutrition's a piece. And then exercise, obviously activity. If we're sitting a lot, we're not being as active, we are not burning as much calorie, and so therefore that can also contribute to the weight gain as one of the piece. And everybody knows that already, but that's one of the piece. The other big key factor, the seventh key factor, is medication. So there's a lot of medication that causes weight gain. Some of the things we don't even think about. For example, we're in allergy season. Benadryl is an antihistamine that causes significant weight gain if you're taking on a daily basis. And then you got Zyrtec, Claritin, and all those are also weight positive medicine, versus like if we were to take Singulair, which is also an allergy medicine, that's more weight neutral. So it determines on what medication you're on. Pain medication, steroids, anxiety medicines like benzodiazepines, those can be weight positive, and that can cause weight gain. So based on all those things, you got to determine what are the causes of your disease. And then from there, we can work on helping the patient lose the weight better. Because if you're just focusing on, I'm going to eat right and exercise, those could be two important components. But if you're missing the other piece, it may be really hard for you to lose weight.
Sorry, I was muted. I think that is fascinating. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration, is that it's multiple factors and not just changing the diet. But I know Sophie is going to ask this, and so I need to ask it. So talking about nutrition, what do you recommend again? Like, because I know fasting's been a thing, keto's been a thing. What would you recommend? I mean, everyone's going to try something new this year to try to reach their goals. So what's usually your recommendation?
So my recommendations usually for nutrition pieces is less than 50 grams of carb a day and about 100 grams of protein. And if you're taller, you get a little bit more protein. The reason why I say that is protein suppresses the hunger hormone, like I mentioned earlier about the ghrelin. So you want to eat more protein than carbohydrate in every meal. That would be kind of the initiation. The way that I like my life, so that the key is not so much of a diet that you're on, it's a lifestyle change. You want to lose the weight and keep it off, versus somebody goes on a diet. I'm like, I'm going to be really strict, and then you're going to lose a bunch of weight, and then you can't handle the strictness anymore, and then you gain the weight and gain more. So the idea is lifestyle change. So I tell my patients, okay, you get 50 grams of carb a day, spend it how you like it. So it's a net carb, not total carb. So that means you take the total carb minus the dietary fiber equals your net carb. So the fiber carb is a good carb for your body. It's complex carb. But anyway, the point is, if like you have a birthday coming up, an anniversary coming up, you're going to go to the steakhouse and you guys going to have a piece of cake at the end because it's your birthday. Well, you better eat really good that day. So then you save that 50 grams of carb for that cake, or 30 grams of carb, or however much you're going to end use eating that cake, or that. So it's not completely restricted, but you can't eat that food at all. But if you really want it, you gotta save up. So I always say, you got $50, spend it how you like it. You got 50 carbs. If you're going to use it in the morning, then you can't have it in the evening. So that gives the patient a little bit more control. They don't feel like they're so overwhelmed that I cannot eat that food. It's like, I really want that food, but then that means I have to eat really good so I can reward myself with that piece. So each day you can't go over 50. That's my rule number 1 in my 7 rules of weight loss. And then 100 grams of protein. So that means I always tell my patient to eat food in order. So I'm not all about like how strict they are, but I always tell them, eat your protein first. So, right, you always eat your protein and your vegetable first so that it fills you up, and then you eat your carbohydrate at the end. So, for example, you go to a steakhouse, they bring out them warm bread or a Mexican food with like some chips and salsa. You always tell them to bring that at the end. You eat your steak and your salad first, and if you're full, then you stop there. But if you're really still craving for that carbohydrate, you eat it at the end. You never start it at the beginning, because you're going to end up having too much carbohydrate and not enough protein, and then you go over. Does that make sense?
That is an amazing tip. I mean, that is so good. Do that till the end, because I'm sitting here, my stomach's growling right now. I'm like, what am I going to eat?
I'll give you tips in a bit on that. Okay.
Okay, so everybody, about those 7 key factors that she's talked about, there's a whole in-depth video on our website, so please be sure to check that out. She draws a whole picture. I learned so much watching it. But next question, can you tell us what individuals have been struggling with since transitioning to work remote?
So a lot of the people who are working from home, they have like food, because they have kids at home. So they'll have like chips and cookies in the cabinet. So the when you walk out, like taking a break, going into opening the cabinets or the fridge, there's all these snacks. So they tend to snack worse, and then they're not as active because they, usually, you're walking around in the office and you're seeing other people. So they're not as active. And then also people who are in COVID also has a lot more depression and anxiety, is because they're not used to being in the environment with being just like 24/7 being around the family, or sometimes they're locked in their home all day long. So they're not being social. So they're getting more depressed, more anxious. And then they're just eating poorly, and they're not as active. And a lot of people work sometime on their bed. So that means they're not sleeping well either. So when it's sleep time, they're not actually sleeping properly, is because they're working on the bed and they fall asleep while they're working. And so in the evening, when it's bedtime, they're not sleeping. So like I mentioned in the 7 key factors, sleep is one of the issues. And so that can cause them to gain weight from the sleep pattern not being proper, stress causing the contributing to the weight, not being active, and then you're not eating right because of the environment that you're in. So all those are big problems with the pandemic, working from home that we have right now.
So what are suggestions that you have to change that lifestyle habit? I mean, I've seen little memes about going and pretending, walking up and down the hallway, pretending you're walking to work or something like that. So you actually leave that physical space, and like, I have an office in here, leave the couch, leave the bedroom. What suggestions do you have?
So I suggest that the patient would, or all the employees should be trying to keep your schedule. So you still wake up the same time. So I always tell them, like, wake up in the morning, brush your teeth. And while you're brushing your teeth, do some squats, or, when you're brewing your coffee, do some jumping jacks or some squatting or whatever. So you do your 10-minute workout in the morning when you first wake up, and then, wear not the same pajama that you're working, wear something. It doesn't have to be fancy, but something different from your sleeping clothes. And then you sit in front of your computer to do work or whatnot. And then when you have a break, you actually take a lunch break or breakfast. So you eat your breakfast like high protein, low carb. So that means for breakfast, instead of eating a bowl of cereal, I want you to eat like a protein bar or a protein shake or eggs and turkey bacon or whatever. So high protein, low carbohydrate for breakfast, like you usually do. Work for, say, from 8 till noon or whatever the hours is. And then you still take your 30-minute or an hour lunch break. And then, so you eat and then I would recommend doing 10 minutes of exercise during the lunch break, so that you are like increasing the adrenaline, you getting that. So it could be, like I said, just going for a walk outside, or you can do 10 push-up, 10 squatting, 10 jumping jacks. I don't care. Just move for 10 minutes, right? So, and if you want to do that with a coworker on a Zoom meeting, well, that would be great. So then you're kind of motivated with each other. And then at the end of workday, you end still at 5 or whatever at the time that you guys end, then you still plan for your workout. So in other words, you still plan out your day so that you're active, you're eating properly, so that you're not kind of, because most people, when they're working from home, especially if they don't have to be on a video, they're like on their couch or on their bed, like trying to type or doing computers. And so they get into like being at home mode also. So in the evening time, they're not separated. So they're still in that, like, I'm kind of working, but then kind of relaxed. So then you're not really having the schedule properly. And so they tend to fall into that, like, being bored and eating and snacking and depressed and stuff like that. So if you try to be as scheduled as the days that you're working, that would be most ideal.
I love that. I mean, I'm writing all these down right now because, as I told you, we have a weight loss competition going on right now. And I'm like, I need that physical exercise during the day to just change it up and walk outside. I've been doing squats while I fill up my water bottle now. I have a huge water bottle right here, and I'm doing squats while I fill it up.
I would suggest, you've got some good points as far as take your lunch and then do those exercises, but I recommend everyone set reminders on your calendars, because we all get bogged down. We skip lunch sometimes. Don't recommend skipping lunches either. So that's some good pointers, but put it on your calendars for it to be a daily routine until it becomes a habit.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
so we have a few minutes left, but I want to change gears. So let's talk about mental health. So do you have some statistics on how COVID-19 has affected Americans?
Yeah, so like, since the statistic at the CDC mentioning that the COVID has caused probably about 40% of American having some form of mental health. Could be anxiety, depression, stress disorder from like a family member that died, or somebody, they were really sick from COVID. So it's a pretty significant number, 40%. I mean, that's 4 out of 10 patients or a client that we would see, right? So that's a big number. And for my personal office, I mean, my patients are anxiety and stress level like skyrocketed compared to where it was beforehand, and we help manage that. But it's still pretty big because of the anxiety, the concern that they will catch COVID and then giving it to their family, or just kind of working from home, not being able to have that interaction with other people. So it's a big major issue.
Yeah. So to ask a question on that is, what do you educate your patients on when they're struggling with stress, anxiety, and depression?
So I usually like to talk about this positive thinking, right? So when the way of our wired brain, so I recommend them to make a list of the positive thinking. So when our brain is kind of like a search engine. If we keep searching negative thoughts over and over again, that's all we think about. So kind of like if we're thinking about how I'm going to get COVID, I'm going to lose my job and all these things. So you're so stressed about all that, and that's what you all think all the time. And then everything else that's good in your life, you actually don't think about it. And so your body gets stressed and anxious even more. So what I actually recommend them to do is write a positive list. So that means on their mirror or a piece of paper, say, write one positive thing about Morgan or Ashley per day, for example. So then you would write, I still have visions to see. I still can breathe. I still have my arms. I have a job. I have a roof over my head, things like that. So then when a negative thought comes about, then they can just take a deep breath and relax and say, hey, it's just small stuff, man. I got a cough, a cold. A lot of people get through this COVID thing. Is nothing. You know what I'm saying? So teaching them positive thinking is what I usually like to do to help them when they're having the anxiety episode or a panic attack, having them take that deep breath and just kind of rewire their brain to relax them and focus on what's good in their life. And that generally is able to kind of settle their stress and able to get them through that moment in time.
Yeah, we had a yoga episode talking about taking deep breaths and resetting your mindset, which is exactly what we're talking about right now. I love that. So is there anything that business owners or upper management can do to help their employees with mental health? Do you have suggestions on work environment or anything they can do?
So in the working environment, like I recommend like maybe having like happy hour outside of work, like on Zoom, like, hey, everybody bring in their either a tea morning or a breakfast and coffee or whatever, or like a happy hour, bring out your cheese and your wine so that we can always, you know, kind of like have a non-working whenever they're on Zoom. It's not all about work. It could be just communicate with each other. How is your kid and wife and stuff like that? So getting them out of that stress moment, just kind of having that some human contact, even through Zoom, would be okay. So like a, you know, 10-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, just to talk about random stuff instead of work, doing that, or doing even like a 10 or 15-minute workout on Zoom. Like, hey, so one of the, maybe anybody in the group is a little bit more active, they can, one person can like do some jump, you know, like do some workout that we all work out together on Zoom. And then, you know, things like that to kind of get the employee engaged. And the thing with exercising or even doing like a work hours, like at noontime from 12 to 12:15, we're going to do some exercise. Everybody get on, right? So what that does, exercise in the middle of a work day, it increases adrenaline. So it actually increases the energy level and actually help them work better in the afternoon hours versus like so it increases adrenaline, they functions a lot better. This is the same way when I was in med school. I mean, like if I could sit and study for hours and hours, it doesn't get in at the last few hours. So I need to get up, do something quick, exercise. Then when you sit down, it just click, 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 click. So productivity is a lot better once a client or your employee is a lot healthier. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've heard how different businesses have different things like that. I have a friend of mine, they're doing competitions on their watches and step competitions, just trying to get people to be active during the day, which I love. So, okay, we're going to wrap this up. Can you tell us about DPC Health here and how it can help entrepreneurs, small business owners, individuals, and families with full healthcare coverage?
So at DPC Health, we're like a membership-based clinic. So for employers, it's a great type of membership. So we cover everything. So pretty much, you know, with employers, when you buy an insurance product for your member or for your employers, it's very expensive. Usually, you know, a few $100s a month, $300, $400, $500 a month, and your employers still have to pay a copay and all that stuff. So it's still very expensive. The way that our membership work is like we have different tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. It depends on what their needs is, like between $80 to $125 a month. So sometimes the employer can pay that, or they can pay like 80% or 50%, and then the employee can pay the other portion. But what it includes everything that we provide. So urgent care, primary care, weight loss, hormonal therapy. I mean, we do it all. Laceration repair, splinting and casting. So we are the family medicine, urgent care, kind of a little bit of ER stuff. So we do a lot of that. So we cover everything. All that is covered, and they do have access to us 24/7. So if they're like, you know, not feeling too good and they need to see whether, you know, for example, COVID occurs, right? So they have symptoms. They can't go get tested certain places. Well, we can test them here, treat them here, write the doctor's note for them, and get them back to work a lot sooner versus they're trying to get into one of these urgent care clinic or their primary care doctors that may be weeks out. So we are kind of like the person to call at any time. So even in 2 o'clock in the morning, they're throwing up and they can't get out of bed and they have issues, then they can call us. And I'm actually, you know, the physician will be on call and will manage their disease condition and either send them the medicines or things like that. So, and we work after hours also. So like even on Saturday or Sunday, somebody had a cut or fracture, we meet them at the office and we sew them up and we help with the laceration repair or splinting and casting. And we actually also, like if they need imaging, we coordinate with the imaging center and give them the lowest price that we can get in the market, even cheaper than somebody who has insurance who haven't met the deductible. So we really do fascinating work in this to help coordinate care with patients.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, we shared your information on our website. So everybody watching this who's interested, please check them out on their website. We'll share it on our pages. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciated it. This was amazing. And if anybody has any questions, please make sure to like, share, comment, ask questions on our page. We are so excited about this. You're amazing. And I can't wait to meet my New Year's resolution.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Ashley, for having me.
Dr.
It was a
Whitman.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. Bye.